listeners to the Brighter Side of Blue podcast. I'm Danny from Naples.
I'm Tommy.
I'm JJ.
Today.
Again. Staying JJ.
Producer John's on board.
Producer John in the house.
Tommy was just pointing some stuff.
Well, John didn't have his headphones on. His music was blasting.
Oh, hell no. 307 cities, fellas. 307 cities. Germany, Australia, Poland.
Checking in.
Canada. Where else, JJ?
Colombia. Country.
Colombia. The country
Jamaica.
of Colombia.
Jamaica.
I mean, the Brighter Side of Blue is going global.
Look at us. Look at us now.
Yeah.
Actually, the feedback
we're
we're getting from that last show, awesome feedback from the time we spent with Captain Joe Speece as the first episode of the Legends series, and it was great to spend time with Joe Speece, senior and junior at the same time.
I like senior better.
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, don't we all?
That's not even. That's not even a,
93 sharp as a tack.
That's unbelievable, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Tommy.
What's that?
You know what's as amazing as us being in 307 cities and worldwide? JJ's finally got some merch together for us and for our listeners.
Absolutely. Finally, the day has come. So we've got a link that you guys can pick your own stuff out, your own colors, whether you want a pullover or you want a hoodie or you want a hat,
Quarter
T-shirt,
zip.
quarter zips. We got it all, baby. And a link to that merch store will be on all of our social media pages. It'll be on our Facebook. It'll be on our Twitter, YouTube, and all of our. I believe he's going to put it on Instagram. So we're going to get it out there. And if you have trouble with any of that, email us at thebrightersideofblue@gmail.com and just ask us for the link, and we'll send you the link. And we've so much, like Danny said, we're in all these cities and we're growing, and that's because of you guys and your guys' support. So we just ask for a little bit more support, and that will really help us out as we try to make this give you more stuff. We want to do videos and we want to do different kind of episodes, but that'll help out support and really get us going in the right direction.
Can I say?
That all looks good.
Yeah, I want to say one thing. I want anybody that orders merch or apparel to take a picture of themselves and post it on our Facebook page.
Oh yeah, or send it to you and we'll post it, or send it to us
wherever.
and we'll post it.
I'd love. Yeah,
That'd be awesome. And
who's going to be
Where
the
you're
first?
from. That'd be awesome. Hey, Tommy, should we give producer John the same amount of time to pimp his line of
the
merch?
New Balance line?
The New Balance jean short line?
John, you got anything to report on your particular merchandise?
Yeah, the knee-high socks weren't quite as high as I thought they were going to be. I sent them back. And then
Did you go with 2 stripes or 3 on the knee highs?
there's 3. There's 3 different colors too. I just didn't get the effect I really thought I was going to get, so I sent them back. They're going to redesign them. So stay tuned.
Okay, do you link, or do they reach you by telegraph?
No, you just
How
meet.
do we get
You just meet me in the parking lot. I'll deliver them personally. We'll see
we didn't want to
when
leave you out.
we'll see at the year's end at the shareholders meeting who sold the most apparel, me or you guys.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad you got that in there.
So the other thing
Hey,
that I'm sorry to interrupt you, Danny, but that's just the way life
ahead.
goes.
Yes, I get it.
And your voice is your audio is just a little off there in our Naples studio. So as the show goes on, you might have to pipe down.
I got you. I got you.
All right.
I understand.
Yeah, he's been muted the whole time. We can hear him, but the audience can't.
That's a good thing. That is a good thing.
Actually, I miss Danny. He's usually
It is. It's
the
we do
comfort.
kind of miss you.
That was a
you
total-
can be your smart ass self all the time.
And that was a total
Okay.
lie. That was a total lie on my part. I do not miss him. No.
But one of the other things that, and Danny, you heard from a couple of our listeners that it's a family, and their son is starting the police academy. And tell us a little bit about that, Danny.
Well, it's actually awesome because part of our theme of the Legend Show tonight revolves around family and the police family and how big it is, no matter what part of the world you're joining our law enforcement family. But one of our first listeners, Casey Fernandez, He's from Onset, Massachusetts, but he on Tuesday graduates from the Plymouth, Massachusetts Police Department. And he was one of our original listeners. He was a listener during the academy, and he joins the family on Tuesday, and he comes from great stock. I'm friends with his mom, Kelly, from down here in Naples, and his stepfather, Scott. You know, I've not met his father, Jamie, but he's joined the police family. So congratulations to Casey Fernandez, new recruit.
Take all we can get.
Tuesday.
I guess we can't take credit for him joining the academy, but hopefully someday we will have somebody that
we can take credit for. I started listening to that show, and I thought it was going to be a good career.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Congratulations, definitely.
That's awesome.
It's not easy.
Find good people, Casey, and follow them around and emulate what they do, and you'll find those people that can be tremendous mentors to you.
Danny, how does the parents feel about him becoming a police officer? A little nervous, or
Kelly's nervous, you know, and just like our parents were.
Right.
You know, she's so proud of him that it's an honorable career, and it's kind of neat to talk to them. I think Casey's going to go far because I kind of asked if he'd want to come on and say a few words, and Kelly said he's kind of a quiet kid, so you know he's going to rise to the top. He's already
look out for them.
Yeah, because there'll be some of the best heroes, and unlike us morons. You know,
kind of reminds me of me.
Quiet.
Anyway,
or a hero.
Both.
Not at all.
Quiet hero.
Quiet hero.
Quiet hero. Oh,
no, but we got the merch, and we got a couple more, 307 cities at last check. So we're moving up in that. What else we got?
I'm so excited with what the show we got tonight, Tommy.
Oh, dude, the show is with Joe Burgoon, the Godfather. That's just the Godfather of St. Louis Homicide. And he was by far the most requested guest of anybody, that everybody wanted to hear from Joe. And we just got, 4 clips for you coming up. There's so much more, and we're going to have him back on. He checks in with us. He talks about shows, and he's a listener, and it was just a pleasure for us to have him in. And
his son looks just like you, so I was always kind of get you confused early on in my career.
He does.
Well, early in my career, people would just walk up to me and say, "How's your dad?" And my dad was a businessman that never had anything to do with the police department. So rather than tell him, I don't know what you're talking about, I'd say he's just fine. And I finally figured out that they were confusing me and Joe's son, Tom, who was also on the police department. Somehow I put it together one of those times. I said, oh, they're confusing me with Tommy Burgoon. So then Tom Burgoon would often get
same thing. So then Tom and I started calling each other Brother Tom, like the two Darrell brothers. We were Brother Tom. And it went even further, and then Tom started calling my wife Sis, my wife Connie. He still refers to her as Sis. And then to go even further, Tom Burgoon, son Sean, and my son Jack are best of friends. So even though we weren't related, it kind of just all weaved itself together, and that's fun.
It's kind of cool.
I learned from Sergeant Burgoon, his father was a city policeman.
Joe's father was.
And then Joe's father was.
Okay.
And then Joe was, and then Tom was. So we have over 100 years of Burgoons in the St. Louis
family
police department. Yeah, it's a family thing.
I like it. And as we've heard on several of these shows, that a lot of families involved in police work.
Yep.
And we'll hear a little bit about that later. But we have a special guest that's joining us, Tammy Sirocco, who is our Tammy Sirocco Benjamin, who was, of course, our first interview on all of our podcasts, episode 1. If you haven't heard it, go back and listen to it. She heard that we were bringing on Joe Burgoon, well chronicled before in his description as the Godfather of St. Louis Homicide. He also worked with your father, and that's why you reached out and said, I would love to come on and say hi to Joe Burgoon. So
it is a pleasure. I feel like when the guys told me you were going to be on, like, totally starstruck. And I love the description of the Godfather. He is the OG. I am so excited to be in the same virtual room.
How are you doing, kiddo?
Oh, I'm doing so great. I have the best memories of you, and when you say he worked with my dad, I think my dad thinks you hung the moon. So, among many. So, I mean, just a legend. It's an honor to be here with you.
You know,
I hope you're doing well.
I'm doing fine. You know, I just my grandson. He's in the 6th grade now, and he was in the 5th grade. Your sister-in-law was his teacher.
Oh my gosh, Mary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mary Soroka. I love it.
Small world, isn't it?
That is a small world. Oh, how precious.
Perfect.
Well, that's great. I hear Dad's going to move from Farmington, huh?
Yeah, so he's back in the county and living next door to his mother-in-law. They're kind of help caring for her,
Okay.
and of
Josie
course
Michaels.
that puts him back closer to everybody. Yep, Josie, and yeah. So I think that was a great move for him. He's he loves it out there in the woods, which he gets away now and then. He was able to take a hunting trip this year with my brother. But overall, I think it's nice for him to be a little closer to everybody in the city and visit with friends too. Your family's got to be epic with this patriarch that they have. So
Absolutely.
hopefully everybody doing well on your end.
Yeah, we're doing it. My brother was. Remember when he was your principal?
Yeah. Yes.
You-
Yeah,
you-
he
you-
scared me a little bit. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was always like, I feel like these roles were reversed. Like,
So Joe was a good brother?
in my opinion, yes.
No,
In my opinion, yes. Well, as always, it's a pleasure to be with you guys and all the listeners, followers. I wish you a very happy, healthy, peaceful, and restorative new year.
And I'm down for that. I
Boom.
think everybody wants that.
Yep.
We all do.
Well said.
Well said, Tammy. We appreciate you calling in. And
Yes.
I know it was nice for Joe to catch up. He was tight with your father and the family. Of course, being in the police family that you are. It was nice hearing from you, and you have a awesome new year to you and your whole family.
Yeah, it's all of you as well. Thank you so much. Thanks for including me.
All right, Tammy.
Bye, Tammy.
Thanks, Tammy.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And Joe, just to let the listeners know, when did you start the St. Louis Police Department?
1960.
And then when did you start your homicide career?
In April of 1969.
And then you pretty much, to say you did the rest of your career in homicide would be almost correct?
Well, I had 27 years in homicide. And then I went to the 9th District in uniform for a year. And I finished out 7 years in the South Patrol Detective Bureau.
Is after you retired from the St. Louis Police Department, what did you do after that?
I worked for about 7 years as a consultant or call-outs on missing persons for missing children with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And then in 05, I got a call from St. Louis, or it was 04 when I retired. The county police called me and said they were going to start a cold case unit. Would I be interested? They were applying for a grant. And I started there, and following in 05, I started at St. Louis County until this last November, or December, rather, 2024.
So that would be about 19 years of doing
Seven-
cold cases in the county?
17 years.
17 years?
Yes.
Well, my math is a little off every once in a while. Take one of the cases, and when we told people we were having you on, Joe, is a lot of people sent in suggestions about what they wanted to hear. And the number one thing they wanted to hear about was the national murder case, which 1987. And I believe you were one of the lead investigators, if I'm not mistaken on that, correct?
Correct. I just left my home. I was heading into work. We were working homicide, working from 11 till 7, and I could hear him on the air putting out descriptions, and we were called and just told to respond to the National Food Store on Natural Bridge, 4331 Natural Bridge. So when I got there and parked in front, Danny Nichols came out. He was parked, his car was in front of mine. And he was getting his tape measure and that out. He said, it's brutal in there. He said, it's really bad. So when we got in there, Steve Hobbs and that group, they were in an ETU, they were in the work area where the office was. So we just started interviewing people. There was 5 people killed in the store. There was Rose Brown, Michael Bohr, Michael Beam, and Kenneth Bass. And there was a store manager, Harold Meyer, and Richard Fortson. They were shot also. And we went to different hospitals. And so they were processing the work area, so we started interviewing the workers in the store. They have stockers in there that would be, at nighttime, would be low. After the stores closed, they were restocking the shelves and that. It was their job. So later on, we wound up, the guard, David Spahn, he was taken to regional hospital. Harold Meyer went to Bethesda Hospital, and Richard Fortson, I think he went to Barnes. So each were assigned. I was assigned to go talk to the store manager, and the other officers went. They had district detectives responded too. We had citywide. Everybody came in. So when I got down there to the hospital, and Harold was, his mom was there and his wife, and he had been shot twice, and he wouldn't take any medication. He wanted to be clear-headed. And he was shot in the chest, and he was shot in the hand. And so we started what time he went to work that day, and then he said what time he started. And it was a normal day. It was going to be a busy day. It was Labor Day weekend. And I found out later on that store on Natural Bridge was the busiest store in of all the national food stores. So he was saying that everything was fine all day, and that evening. So they close at 10. So at 10 o'clock, they start shutting everything down, and the young man, the youngest one, Michael Moore, he was a bagger. He was 16 or 17 years old. He had to stay extra to wipe off the counters and everything. So by 11 o'clock, they were ready to go. Harold said he stood up and looked, and he seen they have a ring. They had a ring, and that all the keys are on the ring. So the guard would take the keys and go down and let them out the east door. And Harold sat down, and the guys were going to leave. The people were going to leave. They were getting ready to go. All of a sudden, they walk to their door, and he opens the door, and there's a guy with a gun on him. Puts them all back in the room. Tells them if they make a move or do anything, he's going to kill them. You know.
Is that back in the office? They took
in the
them?
office,
Okay.
in the office area. And it's not that real big in there, you know. So then they ask him to open the safe. Well, Harold, everybody's nervous and everything, and Harold, he tried, he couldn't get it open, so he told the lady, Rose Brown, to get it open. So she did, and he said, if you call anybody, I don't give a damn, I'll kill all of you. So when Harold couldn't get it open, he hit him in the head with the gun. So he's bleeding he's down the floor. So they start taking me, and Harold tells Rose Brown, give him the trash bag. What they did, they had a lot of money orders. People would come in, pay their utility bills. So they throw all the carbon paper in that trash bag. There was a trash bag. And the guy's reaching in there, and he's getting the money out of there. And so then after they get that done, they got everybody there. They have them come out of the office. When they come out of the office, there's another some row of shelves, and there's somebody on the other side. So they make them go up to the counter. They got them all up by the counter. There's a counter there, and put them on the floor. When they put them on the floor, everybody, then they had to move forward all the way to your head's almost at the counter. And they were face down. Harold was on his side because he couldn't, there was no room for him to turn down. And he could feel the guy was right at his feet, and he's going through that bag, and then he says, "Kill them all."
How many perpetrators were there in the store at this time?
At that time, we saw there was two. From once they start shooting, one of the stalkers come up to the front, and he's looking. He can see a guy at the window, but there's a soda machine there. Like he must be a lookout or something. And then he looked west, and he could see two guys. He seen somebody bent over. So after they shot, and Harold said he saw, when he came out of the office, he saw that somebody had the guard's gun, and then the other guy, the guy that had the gun that he had was a piece of crap gun. It was an old Ivor Johnson or something old. So after they're laying down, after they're on the floor, they're moaning and everything else. They tell the guard, we know you got more bullets, where they at? He didn't have a bullet pouch. He said, they're in my pocket. So he unloaded the gun and he put the bullets in there. And then he start walking down, and he click, click, bang. Go to the next one, bang. He went to the next one, which is Harold. Harold kind of moved his head like that, and he shot in the hand, and then he shot in the chest. And next thing he knows, they leave. So he's later, he wants to make sure they're gone. He crawls in the office. He calls his wife, who lives up in North County. Tells him we've been shot. I call the police. So she hangs up. She calls 911 in the county. The county, she says who she is. My husband's the manager of the National Food Store on Natural Bridge. Well, there was a Natural Bridge store on Lucas and Hunting Natural Bridge, so they went there. The county did. Harold waits a little bit. He goes back, and he's still in there. He calls her again. He says, "Did you call the police? They're not here yet." And then they call again. But in the meantime, one of the guys who were stalkers, looks out the guy that saw the guy by the soda machines. He got up on the roof. He crawled up, it was a ladder, and he got up on the roof, and he had the keys. By that time, the police were there. And then he threw the keys down to the officers so they could get in there.
Wow.
What a scene.
Wow.
So, and that was like we were in there till I guess 2 or 3 hours, getting the statement, taking our time. So when we got back, it was about, I'd say 5:30, 6 o'clock, and everybody's there, the team's there, and so we're gonna start typing up what I got so the guys know what to work with. And I said, we got something came up. A guy called. He said he was up on Grand Avenue by the water tower, and he said he was there with those guys with the National Food Show when it happened. He's afraid it was his uncle and some other people, and they were going to kill him. So they go up and they find him. They bring him in. He starts telling the story that he's standing outside with his uncle and 3 other guys, and all of a sudden, when the guard comes to come out, let the kid out, like Michael Moore out, to go to get his gun, and then they all rush in, running, screaming, and did this and that. So when they get through with that, I said, "Wait a minute, this is not what the victim says." He said, he don't know what he's talking about. He got hit in the head, he's shot, blah, blah, blah. So we got a problem. So then they said, they told two detectives to go out there. We got a picture of one guy. He had been arrested, and we had some fill-ins like you do. So he goes out there to the hospital and he sees Harold Meyer. They show him the pictures, and he don't identify anybody. Then they start arguing with him.
Start arguing with the victim.
Yeah.
I think this is a good time for me to interject, and it's a good time for me to be quiet because it's a great story. But in this case, there was pressure in a big case of when 5 people were murdered, and also one of the victims happened to be a relative of a prominent politician. Correct?
Somehow, yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, now go ahead and.
Well, when like I say, when they went out there and they show him the pictures, and he don't identify him, and they start arguing with him.
This was Harold Meyer, correct?
Yeah. So Harold calls me up. He says, "What the hell what the hell's going on?" Blah, blah, blah. There's 2 guys out there wearing these hats. And I finally, he's going on. I said, "Harold, let me tell you something right now." I said, we don't tell you, you tell us. That's the way it is. Okay, all right, okay. You just take it easy. We're working on this thing. So we were there. So we got the names of all these people from this kid that came in there. And they found they did say he had a record. He was arrested down North Broadway somewhere. They did a business robbery. And they put the people on the floor. So it made sense, with everything else. We think, well, maybe that's him. So we're trying to get the stuff going with that, and do some background, get pictures where we can. And the other guys, we can't find nothing on them, no arrests or nothing like that. So then they decide they're gonna. The next day they got warrants and all that stuff. They hit the houses. They get this one guy. His name was Charles Wright, and he had a little all-head gun, and so they got him, and they get the other. That's the only gun they got. In the meantime, while all this was going on, we called. There's a gun shop out on. He lived in North County. the guard, Mr. Spann. There was a place out there called Marshall's Gun Shop. They finally they were selling guns and this and that, and they shouldn't have been. Well, he bought this gun from them, so we had the serial number. We got it in NCIC right away. We had that got that covered. So the next day we bring they hit these different houses. We bring them in, and they're all in there all afternoon and everything else, and they all deny it, everything else, and the families and this and that. This kid that came forward, he said, "I can't. They're going to kill me. I can't leave here." So they put him in the office, in a room. If you've been in the old homicide room down there. Mm-hmm. And they had the door open. And he said, "I can't leave, they're going to kill me." So they kept him there all night, And he's over here and everything going on. The guy's talking and everything else. And somebody goes in there and he tells them a little bit, Then somebody else goes in there and they take him over in the video, the TV section. They get a statement from him. Everybody's real happy we got these guys. And I told the captain, I said, "Captain, these ain't the guys." "Well, I'm pretty sure we got them." I said, "How about we bet $10 on it?" "Well, we got the guys, blah, blah, blah." So then the next day, they decided to have a news conference.
Oh, boy.
And, because it's a big nationwide type thing, so they have the news conference and everything. And then the more they're talking to it, and they finally tell this kid that came forward and everything else, he's being charged. He's under arrest for murder and all this and that. "Wait a minute," he said, "I wasn't there. I was at the airport." He's a security guard.
What was your red flag, Joe, that you had the wrong guys?
Well, he was talking the way it happened. From what Harold says, and you got to go with what your people tell you. So the next day after that happened, we started trying to find some more things. This is one of these deals where it's really confusing. Everybody's running here, running there, and this and that.
Right.
What's taken? What was taken in the store? Well, when we find out, there was it's going to be a busy weekend. So they had $7,500 in $1 bills. And they had these different bus passes. They had monthly bus passes and weekly bus passes. So we had numbers. We had all that. We didn't release any of this stuff. You couldn't. You know how that is. So then they did issue the warrants. The guy, we went out to the airport. Captain told him about it. He says, go out to the airport. We found everybody that saw him out there. So then it's starting to go the other way now, you know. So, but they didn't have a choice. They had to issue the warrants with a case like this, you know, even though. So then after about a week, it kind of went down the tubes. You know, they had to release them all. And then from there, you know, we're just following leads and what we have to do and everything. There was they recovered. We didn't get back in there. They processed it real good. What you got. There was an envelope was torn open, and they got a partial print off of it. It was a thumbprint, and it was 6 points, you know, which isn't enough to make. You have to have more. You have to have about 7 or 8 to be positive on it. We only had 6. Well, we couldn't go back up there and look for it because they had National had people come in there and clean up everything, clean it all up. That was gone. Then we get a call from the FBI. They got the print eventually, and they got their examiner says he had 21 points on it.
Oh, wow.
And our guys go up the fingerprint up there. Joe Bull was up there. He was in charge of that. Everybody looked at it, all the fingerprint guys, all the experience they got, they still said 6 points. So every lead we get, we get the fingerprint classification, and we get the name, and you have the FBI number and the fingerprint, just for the world. It was a world. And every list we'd send up there, you know, they'd compare them. Nope. So we never did identify that print.
Okay.
You know.
Can I ask you? I'm sorry, Joe. I was reading up on this, and you just mentioned it, the bus pass. Did that come in play at all?
Oh yeah.
Okay, that's what I was.
Eventually.
Okay, I thought
This is an
so.
ongoing.
Wait for it, JJ.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm impatient, but I read that when I was
JJ's
reading
about to
it.
pull the bus over.
Yeah, we got. No, this was an ongoing. We're following this, and we're. In the meantime, after all this was over, Tom Detmar, he was the U.S. Attorney's Office. He calls George Peach. He wants to send over an ATF agent that worked with Steve Chiraco on Engelman and some of this other stuff. Bill McGarvey. So Bill came over. So I was teamed up with Bill McGarvey, and then we were doing stuff. And then the other group, they were following up different leads. And none of this is on paper. You know how that goes. Everything is going.
Oh, I know how it goes.
Yeah. You know, eventually it's going to get there. But it took. I was reading that report. I should have brought it in. The original crime scene report wasn't made till October the 2nd.
And when did it happen?
September the 4th.
Wow.
You know. Yeah. And there were some other ones.
That's on par for Tom's.
That's on time for me.
So then in November, we're in November now, November the 8th, we get a call. The Homicide got a call from Brentwood Police. They had stopped the car for a traffic violation. When they opened the trunk, they're going to take a custodial search, and they find a gun in there. He had Smith & Wesson .38, had rubberized handles, grips. When they took the grips off, they get the serial number. That's the guard's gun.
Wow.
You know, and then we got it. The lab identified it. Said, yeah, that's the gun. That's the other gun. There's the bullet. It was such an old gun. You know, you couldn't do anything with it. You know, you couldn't if you got the right gun, you couldn't do anything with it. So then we started who got the gun? You know, we know the guy from. We find out the guy named Jimmy Kennedy was an uncle of a guy named Donnie Blankenship. He got the gun from Donnie Blankenship. He bought it from him, and then we started working on that. And then Johnny had a brother, James, and James, Donnie. They went over to the house. James said he came over to the house. He had a bag, and when he gave him the bag, he had money. He had $3,000 in $1 bills, and he also had the guard's gun, and the uncle got the gun. So we know how it's coming with that.
Right.
Then we find out later on that they get arrested. They get stopped. They got Donnie and a guy named Marvin Jennings. They get stopped and jump out, and they find a gun in the car, different gun. It's not that. So we got 2 suspects right now. You know, we had some lineups eventually. No one they couldn't have done it. Richard Fortson had he was a diabetic, and his eyesight was terrible.
He was the other survivor, correct?
The other survivor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he got hit with that old gun, and the bullet rimmed his skull. You know,
Around the back?
Right, around the back, yeah. You know, so, you know, we're still plugging away at this and plugging away, trying to figure out why did they come here? How did they get there? And then we get a call from, there was most of the porter they had cleaned up in that. They came from this company. It was on Brannan and Arsenal called Building Butlers, and they do janitorial work. And the guy down at the play, an older man, he said, you know, did you know that Marvin Jennings worked in the National Food Store on National Bridge?
Oh,
there you go.
He worked
Not a
there.
clue.
He worked there a week before. He worked there on a Friday night. He was going to be the new man. One guy was leaving. He was going to be there and so he was there Friday night, watching everything, wasn't doing too much work. And he don't
doing a lot of observation.
He don't come back the next night.
Well, didn't you guys know from the very, I believe in the very beginning that was an inside job?
Yeah.
Wasn't it kind of on your mind?
You just didn't know, you know.
Right.
There was one of the guards was off. He got sick, he had to go home. You're looking at that too, you know, and everything. So we know that puts him in there, and then some other things came up. There were guys were talking to some of their friends, and so when this Phil Harden was talking, you know, they weren't involved, but they overheard them talking. And there's the one guy, he had a girl. Marvin was a ladies' man. He had babies all over the place. And this one girl, he was telling her he really felt bad. They were drinking. He really felt bad. He killed that young boy. You know, don't worry about the other ones, but he did feel bad about that.
I did read where the young boy he tried a few times to get off early, and they wouldn't let him get off.
Yeah.
Because it was busy.
Well, I was supposed to get off at 10, but
Okay.
the end, Mr. Ford said after it happened, he blamed himself.
That's sad.
And I took him to the funeral home for Michael Moore, and he was in the he was a good young man. He was in the Naval ROTC at Cleveland.
Okay.
He was laid out in his uniform.
Oh, man.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
and that Richard was a real sensitive man. You know, he was crying and everything, and he played organs at different black churches.
Really?
He was really
Wow.
well known for that. Richard
Okay.
was, you know, but well, we kept plugging away, but and he could say he cried about blaming, Marvin did, and then supposedly after the murder, Marvin and Donnie, and Marvin had a brother named Myron. He was a security guard at Deaconess. They all went to New Orleans for a funeral. His uncle died down there. So they all drove that night after the murder. They borrowed Marvin's girlfriend's car. She had a Mercury Cougar, and drove to New Orleans. They went down there for a couple of days, and after the funeral they came back. So Bill McGarvey and I, we went down there thinking maybe they spent some money or something.
So you got to go investigate?
They didn't. Yeah, we went down there though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have definitely tried to scam a trip to New Orleans out of any investigation.
You didn't go to a strip club and see a bunch of ones were used
No, we
to.
didn't. No. I could tell you a New Orleans story later. We're off to here, but it wasn't from this case.
But this was, and I believe it still is, the largest mass shooting in St. Louis.
We had one. There was one in the early '70s up in the 8th District on York Court. You know where that is up there on Marcus? There was they were a Cooley family. And there were some kids killed in the house, but it was a drug ripoff, you know.
And how many was that, if you remember?
There was some little kids in there. There's 4 or 5.
4 or 5, yeah. And I think I read somewhere when we were doing our background on this that it's still as far as fatalities go.
Yeah,
it's the largest mass shooting in St. Louis, and it was done with a security guard's gun. Is that what?
They had the 2 guns. They had 2 guns, but they only had bullets for the old gun. You know, whatever they had in there, they only it was 5 or 6 shots, and that was it. And they had 10 shots with the guard's gun.
And I think one of the stories I heard, and I think it was producer John that told me, is that you have stayed in touch with Harold, and you still to this day.
Every day,
correct?
Every year, anniversary.
No kidding. And he's like 70 right now, I think.
He went. After this. Well, I'll tell you what. When we get kind of at the end of this thing, but so we're looking at those guys, and then we're eventually going here, going there. We finally get a arrest warrant. Now they lived out in Henley Hills, on Utica. We had gone to. Going out there, we went out there to get in the house. There was McGarvey, there was a bunch from Homicide and everything. The doors were locked, we couldn't get in. We got a ladder and we were able to get in through the window. And we went in there and there was like a family room. And then there was a bedroom there with two Donnie and his brother slept, they lived there. There's a wallet laid on the floor by the bed. So I pick it up and open it up, and there's Johnny's driver's license. So I pull it up, the driver's license out of the wallet, and there's a bus pass.
I knew that was coming.
So I had the numbers, and one of the numbers was the one taken in the. So it came down to that, and then
he got all that money, and he still wanted to not pay
Well,
for
that, yeah,
one free bus ride.
and then they're going around. Donnie was trying to get a car fixed, and they were going a couple places. And he was paying him with dollar bills.
Once. He was treating the whole area like the strippers. The whole neighborhood was treated like strippers for a while with Donnie.
So how many shooters were there? How many went to jail for this?
I'm thinking there probably was 5. The lookouts or drivers, because they had 7,500, and when they came to his brother's house, James, they only had $3,000, so they had to divide it evenly. You know, we know the one guy was we know the one guy was looking out the window. You know,
right, look out. So how many did they all go to jail? All 5 get convicted?
We don't know who the other. We only had 2.
Okay.
Never did get the others.
Okay.
But when the trial was going on, and they brought the family in there, and Marvin's sitting there, and he was cussing or when he walked by, and this Michael Moore's aunt, she was tough as nails. She said he called her something, boy, she's ready to come over.
There's furniture about to move up in the courtroom.
Yeah, but there was $45,000 they missed. I mean, Marvin
They missed 45,000.
Like he gets jolted.
So they missed the 45,000, huh?
So the 2 they're in jail.
Yeah.
And they still had come up for parole every once in a while.
Every time they've done this, have a hearing, Harold Meyer goes up there.
Good.
And
I think I read that somewhere.
Rose Brown's. Last time they're doing it on just the video. You know,
Zoom.
Yeah, video.
Makes it easy.
The Brown family used to go up there too, but now it's getting all these years later. You know, there was a organization, the International Homicide Investigators, and every year they'd have symposiums. And we had it down at Clearwater, Florida, and they called me and they wanted to know if we could. Harold Meyer would like to come, you know. And so I called up Harold, and he said, "Yeah, they paid their way down there." And we were in Clearwater. It was a real nice hotel. They had somebody that didn't show up or was going to give a talk, so Harold got up there, and I was up there with him a little bit, and he told the whole story to all those guys, what they heard.
Damn.
And I say, here's all these homicide guys. And every one of them, he had a standing ovation.
Well, Harold's the one that steered you away from the original
Right.
arrest. He's the guy that you trusted to say,
That's not that.
this wasn't how it went down. Because he
No.
told me how it went down, and that's not how it went down.
No.
So that good for Harold. And Harold, if you're listening, shout out to you.
I'll
I'll
give
say-
him a buzz. Well, and, besides all that happened to him, his wife left. He had 3 kids. He raised his kids. He's got a fiance, and she's a sweetheart.
I think he just got married, right?
Not married yet.
Oh, he's not married? Okay.
No, he's waiting,
But
but
I thought it was
great.
interesting. He actually stayed in the grocery business.
yeah, he went to work for Schnucks.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I think his son followed suit. And did the
He
same
did. Now
thing.
he's at another store now. They pushed him too fast. But Harold said,
But man,
Yeah.
I would think I'd get out of that grocery business if that was
No,
him.
right.
Well, he had a store up in New York, up in Halls Ferry, up in Spanish Lake. And when he get alarm sounding, you have to go.
Oh man.
He'd have a thing with him.
Oh, yeah. sure it was like the American Express after that incident.
He used to be down at the Loughborough store.
Really?
Okay.
They used to
Yeah.
take care of the police on their picnics down the First District and that stuff.
I wonder if all those Schnucks employees know who he is and his story.
Well, when he retired, Tudor, they had a party at his house, and my wife and I, we got there late, but the Tudor Schnucks brothers were there. They came,
Oh, that's nice.
and then the Budweiser distributor or someone, he bought a truckload full of beer.
Joe, all the years that you've done these homicide investigations, and I know a lot of times you start off with very little to go on. What is the key to having a successful investigation? What is like the main factor that you see that?
Taking your time and then just be very methodical what you're doing. Each case is different. But you got to look at the basics. You got to look at the evidence. Is there prints now? When we had DNA years ago, we'd have been in business.
Yeah, that's a game changer, huh? You
Yeah.
didn't get the benefit of that. Maybe towards
Now
the end
they
of
got
your
all these
career.
cameras and shit. The closed circuit stuff. It's wonderful.
Right.
Now you're out there shoe leather, knocking on doors, and and a lot of times it worked. A lot of it worked. Some of it, you
And
did the
everybody
best you can.
has a cell phone with
Yeah,
cameras on it.
Yeah.
Right, or called a lot of people right before they did something stupid.
Yeah.
So you're saying
Yeah.
the generation of detectives aren't as good because they don't have to work as hard?
Well, like I said about this case, with the guy when he hit him in that room in there and they had the door open and he's listening to all these detectives talking and all this stuff. He's the one that came forward and was all bullshit. And he can listen to all that stuff, and you got to watch what you say around these guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, the other one we wanted to get into, and we all are from the south side of St. Louis. We have several friends that are from the south side of St. Louis, several listeners that are from the south side of St. Louis, and the case that they all asked us about was 1980, November the 15th. Gentleman by the name of Gary Consolino and Ellen Dooling were murdered just sitting there on Wall Street, I believe.
Yeah. Yes.
Tell us what you remember about that one.
4 houses up from Francis Park.
But tell us what you remember about that one, Joe.
Well, it was I know that they were found. That they had been out. He just started dating. They went to, I think they went to DeBerg High School, and they came home, and then they parked. When they came down, they parked down, went down the street and parked, and then later on that morning, I guess whatever it was, her father came out and looked in the car and found them. They were both shot. And we knew it was a small caliber gun, 22. And
I know that there was a bunch of friends of mine, and Danny and Tom's too. Tony Mariani's a buddy. He listens to the podcast, and he had big interest in it because he lived right there at Francis Park. He said he couldn't remember all the names for sure, but he said that Jim Simon, which was Ben Sam's brother, and then they had Ray Meyer, Matt Sheets, another policeman's son,
Yeah.
and then he thought possibly Jamie Comarack was friends of theirs, and they were all brought into Tony's parents' house. And he said you interviewed him, and I believe Jake Jacobsmeyer.
Steve Jacobsmeyer.
And then one of the guys, Ray Meyer, believed that he saw something or a car, and I think they had him hypnotized. You remember any of
Oh,
that?
there were so many people working on that one, and nobody, it's sad to say, but some guys, they don't like to share information. So
We learned that in the Southside Rapist case, but go ahead.
that's all I'm saying. But I tried to stay away from that one. I said, everybody's on one case, we get enough other ones to work on.
Yeah.
We had some ideas. It might have been this, it might have been that, and in those days you didn't have carjackings or something like that, very,
Right.
very rare,
But nobody heard anything? Like, the gunshots
I think
are...
they did hear gunshot.
Okay.
These kids all said they heard gunfire. Did you, Danny? I know you lived by that.
No, I don't remember
No?
that.
So that's why I think they got questioned, because they heard the gunfire and then they brought them all in.
I was telling, I think I told you too, but there's a guy that used to come to all the police retirements. His name was Earl Morris. Earl's was a photographer for the Globe Democrat,
Okay.
and he said he had a cousin that's in prison. He was in there for murder, and that he was aware of some guys. They're supposedly good for that case. This one guy is supposedly good for this case, and it turned out that they had been out earlier, or maybe it was afterwards, but there was a family that they live in Melville, and the daughter went to St. Louis U, and the family was going to the lake for the weekend, and she was going to have a party at the house, and two guys show up, and they strangle her, and they take her out to Jeff County and bury her, and they take her car, and they're arrested down in either Georgia or Florida, and they found the one guy that was found guilty, and he wound up in Terre Haute federal prison, and then he killed a guy in a federal prison. And then later on, they came up here because they tried him after the time was whatever it was. They wound up in Jeff City, and that's where this guy, his cousin, met him,
Okay.
and they were talking about what are you in here for? And they're bragging about I was in Leavenworth and blah blah blah. I did this and I did that, and then he's telling him about killing these guys, and he says I did two others.
Huh.
And his family lived on Macklin and Pernod.
So it puts them in the area?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
he was supposedly up there drinking in the park, sitting in his truck, and they dinged his truck. That's what it was over with. And then they had some words, and then he followed him around there, and then got out of the truck and came up and shot him. That's the latest we had on it,
That was the last of...
That's the last. They tried what we had. And his mother found out about that they were investigating, and she found out about her son. And she said, I know I lost, I lost a son, but these families lost their family members too. So at that time, he was over in Marion when it was a federal prison over there. It still is, but it was a big one for the worst, and Chris Pappas, they went over there and talked to his mother, and they pleaded with him, and he says, if you don't give me the death penalty, I'll tell you what happened. So they went and they talked to DAs, and she wouldn't go along with it. So
they never re-interviewed him?
Huh?
They never re-interviewed him after that?
he wouldn't talk after that, He did it with his
One-time
mother.
shot?
Yeah.
Is he still alive?
Yeah, from what I heard, he's out in California now. He went to Florence, he left Marion, and he went to Florence, Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
That's a Supermax, and now he's supposed to be out in California. And then
All right. That's the theory. And well, Joe did not mention the name of the guy. John, I think you found it in your newsroom.com or whatever that is you use.
Yes, it's Ronald Adcox,
Ronald Adcox.
who's in prison for killing another person.
The next clip I want to set up is when we're in our studios, or I call our studios, offices, and we're not taping all the time. But while we weren't taping, Joe started telling a story about Hank Locknick. And Hank is, Tony Locknick's been on several shows, very close to us, as is his family. And so when Joe started telling the story, we weren't taping. And then John, and I looked at John, and John hit the record button, and we caught the end of the story. And I think it's to set this thing up is Tony's been on several shows. We haven't even had Timmy on, and his brother Timmy is extremely close to all of us. I believe you rode with him, didn't you, Danny?
I did. I wrote him in Narcotics.
And then I also rode with him in Narcotics. He was actually my first partner ever in Narcotics, and was the first person exposed to my extreme ADHD. And then one of the things that Timmy liked to do, that always led to good stories, was Timmy would try to pay people to do stupid things. And so one of the things he tried, or he successfully did, and he paid somebody a couple $100, and these would always happen at the Hilltop.
Right.
When we were drinking on Thursdays.
And we're talking about paying policemen, right?
Right.
Policemen.
Yeah.
Right. What? And then the one I know.
Hey, the ones we know about are the policemen
Well,
ones.
listen, the one you're going at is I just got off of work, and that's on my Thursday night. I'd always go to Hilltop, and they were already there. I just got there, had my uniform and my gun belt all in the trunk, and they were trying to talk a off-duty officer to get paid. I think they was giving $50 to mace him with
Right.
mace, because.
Right.
And so I just got there and like, hey, you got you just got off work, you got your mace with you? I go, yeah. So I went out and grabbed the mace.
So it was your mace?
It was my mace, yeah.
So that particular time, he maced the guy, and the guy had, prior to that, the officer had gotten a bucket of water to bring out next to him. And so he got there, he was going to get ready to get maced, and he was going to just use this bucket of water to help it out. So they agreed on the price and whatever it was. And then Timmy maced him and then kicked over the water bucket.
I was actually,
That is so dirty.
Oh man, I was shocked by that part of it.
But anyway, sidetracked there.
Well, you really got off track.
Yeah, we did.
Right, sidetracked.
Yeah, I mean, he really.
But here, and again, so I just wanted, that's how close we are to Timmy and Tony. And when.
Locknick.
Yes. And when Joe Burgoon started telling a story about him, this is the story he told about their dad, Hank.
About a week or so later, I had a hold-up alarm went off over a Grand Net in North Market. It was an old Roebuck liquor store. And Tony Locknick's dad, Henry, Hank, and Ray Lauer, we were, like I said, we were in Mobile Reserve, and they responded. And they were the first ones. Hank had a shotgun when he went in there, when he had a gun battle. And Hank killed the one guy.
Hank won.
And the other guy shot his hand up real bad, and eventually he gave up then, and then they start working and finding all the other stuff they were doing, robbing this and that. Anyway, he wound up, he got the gas chamber.
That's awesome.
And Ray was a probe, and he got promoted to patrolman, and Hank was a sergeant.
No kidding.
Yeah.
We just
Yeah.
found out who the best police Locknick is now.
Right,
Their
exactly.
dad.
It's Hank.
God, well, Hank died young. He was 34.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we did know that.
So Ray was
Wow.
like Ray was like the
Right.
father for him.
Yes, he was.
All right. That is, we found that story to be, again, that means a lot to us just because of there's a lot of family, as you've heard in these episodes. And Tony and Timmy are very close to us. And what I found with Ray and Ray Lauer is a retired colonel. And Ray had, I think, 3 sons and another daughter of their own. But yet Ray and Bev stepped in and really, really helped out Mrs. Locknick. And
But basically helped raise the Locknick family.
absolutely, and just
Became
Hank,
a father figure.
Yeah, exactly. Because
100%.
Hank died at 34 years of age of a heart attack, and obviously that is hard. And
and Tony's sister, Karen, turned 12 3 days after the death, and Tony was, I believe, 11 at the time, and Timmy was 10.
Wow.
So, you know, when you step in like Ray and Bev did and really help out that family, it really says something, you know.
Well, it's kind of cool that they both grew up to be police officers and they worked for Ray Lauer, I'm guessing. I'm not sure, but I'm sure.
Well, I think Ray
he was
found
still
out
there.
early on, apparently, when they were on the police department, that they were allergic to uniforms.
So Ray took care of him, did he?
So Ray took care of that particular ailment that
Hey, that's
they
all right. They
suffered
deserve
from.
to be taken care of.
Exactly, and
Hey, but they ran with it. They were both good policemen, and I hate to even mention that out loud, but they're both respected police officers
Right.
in their
They
careers.
really were.
And now, can we cut this out?
Colonel Lauer's son.
No, I
Colonel
mean,
Lauer's son.
You might want to cut that out.
Yeah, I don't want Tony to know that I said this.
right,
out.
I agree with you on
Colonel
that. one.
Lauer's son. Can I get a word in? See, that's why I don't chime in. because
Is
you guys
Danny
don't
here?
wanna give Maple to you.
Danny,
Yeah,
where are you
exactly.
at? Danny,
my God.
Danny, you up?
JJ's cutting off Dan and
I love it. It's my time, baby, not yours.
I could tell. Okay, I'll go back to sleep.
I'm not sure you're going to have anything important to say anyway, so go ahead, though, Dan.
No, I'm not. I mean, but if I can get a second, you know, the brighter side of blue, we're letting those out there know that this profession is a great profession, and it's a great profession for what we do for the community and for, but it's also a great profession for those inside because it is a family. You become part of a family. When you raise your right hand and give the oath, you become part of a family, and you never know who's going to stand in for you and help you out, you know, like the Lauers.
You know what, Danny? I feel bad because I said you ain't going to have anything important to say. What you said was just well done. I mean, it's about the police family.
Perfect.
You did a heck of a job, and I hate to admit that, too.
You know, and it's fitting. It's fitting on the
You did. That was good. That was good, Danny.
on the show featuring legend that is nicknamed the Godfather, that so much comes out about family.
Hit it, Huggy.